Hey, Internet. Now, you all know I like video games. One other thing that I really like that you may not know is comic books. I'm a big fan. I have a lot of comics. There's some on the wall. I have a whole shelf of graphic novels. I looked off to the side like you can see it. You can't, but it's there. Basically, I like comics. I like superheroes. I like the stories. I like the backstories and how it can be just absolutely incredulous and also grounded at the same time. I love the world building. Like there's so much to like there. So I was super disappointed when I saw the Wonder Woman movie today. This movie is a dumpster fire. Like Superman v Batman levels of just awful. Everything about this movie is absolutely atrocious. And so many people were looking forward to it that I almost feel bad just pooing all over it, but at the same time, this is an awful movie. I feel really bad if you paid money to go to a theater to see it instead of streaming it at home, because I feel like I wasted money to see it for free streaming it. So, bleh. And I'll talk about specifics. Oh god, I don't even know where to start. Okay, I'm going to talk out of order, and spoilers, by the way, lots of spoilers. So if you are going to see the movie, A, don't, and B, I'm going to ruin it. But at one point, the villain, we'll just set that aside for a second, decides that he needs to touch a lot of people so that he can get all their wishes for reasons. It's magic. But he can grant wishes and then, I guess, take stuff from those people because he's the embodiment of the monkey's paw. And he decides that the way to touch multiple people at once is to use broadcast television, because someone used the phrasing to him that with the particle beams, they can reach out and just touch everybody's screens all at once. And he heard the word touch, and he's like, oh, that counts. And somehow, because plot, it does count. So next time someone broadcasts something to your TV, they're actually touching you, and I'm pretty sure that's assault. Moving on to stupid phrasing, Cheetah, the character in this movie, villain, classic Wonder Woman villain. It's one of her biggest recurring villains. She has her cat form in this movie. Not because she cut herself on an Amazonian dagger and instilled herself with the embodiment of the goddess of the hunt, but instead because she had stupid phrasing when she made a wish. Yeah. She said she wished to not be like anyone else, and she wanted to be the apex predator, which, first of all, no one would say that. Second of all, no. Like, you don't hear that, someone talking about how they want to be unique and the best and the strongest, and think, oh, they want to be a furry. Like, that's never happened. But it did in this movie. And speaking of terribleness in this movie, I'm going to step aside from the plot for a minute, but don't worry, we are going to come back, because there's so much to rant about. But the CG in this movie is god-awful. Just all the time. At one point, it's very early in the movie, Wonder Woman's in a mall, and she's swinging on her lasso, and let's just put aside the convenience of her lasso, because that has the same problem as Spider-Man and his webs. But she's swinging, and then she goes to slide on the floor, and somehow she just slides right across the floor. Like it was Crisco'd, and she's wearing soaps, and just whooshes right across the floor. And what? And then later in the movie, to be a prime example of awesome CG, once again on her lasso, she swoops in to save some little children that are in the street and gonna get run over by cars that are in a giant cavalcade and have tanks with them and would have been heard from miles away, but apparently these kids are as deaf as they are stupid, and so they're standing in the road anyway. She swoops in to save them, and the CG of her picking up these kids, I could do better in Final Cut while editing this video. I'm not going to, because I don't need to give DC any free help, but Jeebus F. Christ, was it bad. Like, it looked so awful. In fact, you know what? I don't monetize my videos anyway, so I'm going to find a way to get a cut of that and put it in here to show you how bad that is. Yeah, see? Wasn't that horrendous? That's just awful. That's not what you expect from giant AAA budget stuff right now. Like, how is DC going to compete with Marvel when their crap looks like that? But I'll get back to plot stuff, or rather, lack thereof. The movie entirely yada-yada'd over one of the big things that everyone wanted to see with Wonder Woman, her invisible jet. Like, in what's basically a throwaway line in the middle of a 10-second conversation, she mentions, oh yeah, my dad put an invisible force field around the island that I was born on. I bet I could do that. And that just makes a plane invisible. There's no struggle. It's not earned. It was never hinted that she would have those powers before, but somehow she does, and now she can use them without any real effort, and boom, invisible plane. And then they use it to fly one time, and you assume that they used it again to fly, but then they ignore that. And the reason they ignore that, and oh dear God, is this fun, is because later she decides she can fly. Because her boyfriend likes flying planes. And that's literally what happened. In the comics, she has all her superpowers and senses and everything because DC doesn't know how to describe powers properly. And she has super touch and can ride updrafts and downdrafts, and that's how she flies. And that's ridiculous, but at least they kind of set that groundwork. So, like, theoretically, in a vacuum, she couldn't fly, or in space, or whatever, because there's no updraft and downdraft. So anyway, it's a thing that exists. In the movie, she's in a plane, and she says, oh, I love that you can fly. And he's like, oh, it's not that big a deal. It's just learning how to ride the wind and the air and blah, blah, blah. And he's describing the sense of flying a plane. And she, somehow, later on, is swinging on her lasso, and then she's in the air for an inordinate amount of time, and she's already flying, and then realizes, oh, yeah, he said I could just do this, and look, now I'm flying. And she tries a variety of poses while, like, it's so stupid. It's just poorly done and trite and just awful. God, everything about it is bad. And then, one of the biggest things in this movie that I really hate, and it's the whole movie, but just the plot device conveniences that happen, everything is so ridiculous. There's a guy in an abandoned building next to a record store that just happens to be one of the last remaining Mayans with an ancient book of all the history of the Mayan civilization that no one else knows. And out of everyone in the entire world, he just happens to be in the same town that Diana is in, because of course he is. And then it just, it keeps going like this. Like, there's the golden armor that the Amazon had that, and they describe this in the movie, she used to literally defend herself against all the powers of the world. The whole world. She took on everyone that was attacking her, all at the same time, using the combined armors of every Amazonian woman, Amazonian, however you say that word. They melded all that armor together to create one suit of armor that she could use to defend against everyone, while the rest of the race got away into their secret little invisible hidden world. Well, later, Diana has this armor, because of course she does, and she goes and gets it, changes into it, and then tracks down Cheetah, again, because of course she does. And now, she's wearing literal plot device armor, because, yeah. And then, to make it worse than the fact that they actually took the phrase plot device armor literal, is Cheetah just tears it apart. Just destroys it with no problem, like with claws. Just rips it apart. Armor that could stop the whole world is torn apart by one cheetah lady. That's ridiculous. The whole movie is ridiculous. And it's stupid. I'm also realizing, watching the little screen there, I talk with my hands so much. I'm so very Italian. And another thing bothers me, it's toward the end of the movie, when she's facing the villain guy, and he's the monkey paw, whatever. All of a sudden his power is wind. Like, she's trying to get him, and she's just being blown back, and there's papers flying, and, like, she goes to throw the lasso, and it just blows back. I'm like, I don't know why he can grant wishes, and then apparently he can extract a price to the person he granted the wish to, although that's never really explained why it happens that way, but whatever, it does. But why is that making wind? Like, why can't she walk toward him? What did he take from someone else's wish that gave him the ability to do that? They yada yada over everything in this movie. Nothing's thoroughly explained or thought out. I swear to God, the writers and directors have never seen a comic book or a movie or even a story, because there's no coherence here. Everything's just slapped together, and you just go from scene to scene wondering, what the hell, and also, is this over yet? Mostly that second one. And the last thing I'll complain about is the ending, because that's the end. Thank God. And again, spoilers, like all the other things I've said, it's so stupid. Everyone in the entire world renounces their wish because Wonder Woman gave a pretty speech. Everyone, every single person. First of all, fuck you, movie. Come on. There's not one jealous person out there who's like, you know what? Nah, I know some bad things happened, but I have this cool Lamborghini and $1 billion. I'm just going to let it ride with this wish. No, fuck you. Someone kept what they wished for. It happened. I guarantee it. Someone thought about the phrasing of their wish and said it in a way that the monkey paw couldn't screw them over. First of all, if you've ever seen any stories about wishes or monkey paws or any of that, you've probably done that in your head where you've thought of the wording of your wish. So, you can't tell me that out of everyone on the entire planet, not a single person thought, I wish for $1 million in non-sequential legal bills that were not obtained in a terrible, hurtful way that will blow back at me. So all you gotta do is just make your sentence a little longer, and now what you've wished for won't bite you. Because in this movie, the wish granter, he all of a sudden decides, alright, I'll give you your nukes or whatever, but I'm gonna take your health and your heart and your rage. Like, no, that's not how the monkey paw works. You can't just say, alright, I'll give you what you want, but I'm gonna take the keys to your Camaro. Like, no, you have to, it's part of the wish. It's part of the whole fable is be careful what you wish for, is that wishing for something willy-nilly can have unintended consequences due to that wish. Not just like, there's a terrible consequence, like you wish for a girl to love you, but then your house burns down. Like, no, that's not, it has to relate. So, it's just terrible storytelling. And because of that, everyone undoing their wish doesn't make sense because it hasn't been shown that these people are all facing direct consequences of their wishes. In fact, most people, I mean, there are consequences, the world is falling apart, but it doesn't appear to be because of the wish they made. So it's really stupid. And then, a couple of months later, it's Christmas, because of course the movie ends on Christmas, that's when they released it, and I guess they want to be the next Die Hard. But they won't be, because this is not a good movie, and no one will care if it's Christmas or not, because it's garbage. But in just a couple months' time, everyone's fine. They've all forgotten that the world almost went entirely to hell. And granted, they did do the undo button with everyone recounting their wish, but they all remember what happened. It still happened, it just got undid. But it didn't reverse time, it didn't remove it from existence. It was a thing that was really bad, and then it got better because everyone decided to stop having the bad things. So, no one should just be okay. Like, that wouldn't just be life as normal. The equivalent of the Great Wall of China just rose and surrounded a good chunk of the Middle East. And everyone's just like, yeah, that's fine. The wall's gone now, so we're cool. Like, no, the world should still be in chaos. A lot of terrible shit just happened. So, it's just, I'll stop ranting now. I'll stop because it's Christmas and I'm sure y'all want to do other things and no one's watching this stupid video anyway. But it's so bad. Nothing about this movie makes sense. It's not fun to watch. It's not visually appealing because the CG is terrible and a lot of the fight scenes look really hokey. Like, I don't remember if the first one was this bad, but here a lot of the punches looked pulled, especially with Chris Pine. Not that he's a bad actor, but multiple times when he's fighting, he goes to punch someone, you could see that he's punching past the person, not into them. And I know that's how you film. You don't actually punch people. But it's supposed to look like you are, and here it doesn't. Like, everything just looks really hokey and dumb. And it's bad. It's not a good movie. It's not enjoyable. It's a popcorn movie at best. If you completely turn your brain off and don't think about the plot or the characters, and you're not familiar with the comics, so you don't know how much they bastardized the origins of everything, maybe you'll enjoy it, but chances are you're going to hate this movie because it's absolute garbage. So hopefully you save your time, skip this movie, just go watch Letterkenny or something instead, and I guess Merry Christmas.